there. That's happiness right there. For a second, though, it was pure fear. I'm not going to lie to you. It was pure fear. That's groovy, right? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Well, hello, everyone. Well, they don't need to see the whole thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Kylie Bragdon. It's a genuine pleasure to be here today. Now, the most important thing anyone really needs to know about me is that I believe that kindness, it can change the world. But I believe it has to start with our leaders. So I'm on a mission, one would say, to teach people transformational leadership practices so they may profoundly improve their businesses, organizations, and communities with greater efficiency and compassion. Now today, I'm going to show you how transformational leadership can help bring your vision to life by using a business I know better than any other. And that is commercial lobstering. Where's my clicker? Guys, come on. Well, there's a really cool picture that's going to come up here eventually. Technical support. Do we have it on the computer? Yeah. Ah, there it is. There we are. So yeah, that's actually me on a lobster boat, and that's a real lobster. And yes, I swear they get way stinking bigger than that. Today, I hope to use my authentic storytelling from my experiences at sea to inspire and motivate you to adopt a few practices to enhance how you currently run your teams and your families, because you can be a leader no matter where you are. But before we get too far into it, I always like to be very transparent in what I do with people. So this is what you can expect from me today. Still no clicker. So our objectives are as followed. I'm going to make sure by the end of this session that you understand the urgency around more compassionate and efficient leadership practices. From there, I'll show you the 4 separate ways which transformational leadership can help bring your vision to life. I'll make sure then that you have a few practical strategies that you can start implementing immediately, because change really does need to start happening right now. And if I do this song and dance the right way, at the end of this session, you'll also be able to prepare a lobster for market. A skill that's really sure your friends and family are gonna love it, so pocket this one, okay? It's a great party trick. So if it sounds okay to all you guys, let's jump in, shall we? Yeah, okay, so here's the deal. I think that we can all agree. The pandemic changed a lot, right? The way in which we conduct work dramatically changed with the pandemic. And although we're a few years out, we've got a new, thank you. Although the nature of work has changed and we're a few years out, one thing remains to be true, is that we're having a real difficulty nationally with workers, employees. We simply do not have enough of them. Now, on a global scale, it's currently predicted that by the year 2030, we can anticipate an 85 million person shortage globally. Now, you might be looking at that number and thinking, oh, that's not bad. It's global, right? Let me make it more real, shall I? So as of January 1st of 2024, there was 52,000 open jobs in the state of Idaho alone. Now, I know you guys aren't a very big state. You're like Maine, right? So it had me wondering, a quick show of hands, who struggled to fill a position in their organization, maybe an open position of 3 months or more in the last year? Oh yeah, common problem, right? Well, though it's a common problem, if you happen to be one of the lucky ones that avoided the shortage of skilled workers, that's okay, because that doesn't mean the sense of urgency escapes you. Doesn't escape you, because it's also anticipated that within the next 4 years, 44% of all employees are going to need a significant skills upgrade. That's a lot of people. So what we're inevitably looking at is a circumstance, regardless if you have enough workers right now or not, we don't have enough people to do the jobs in your organizations to make your businesses function, let alone bring a new vision to life. So what can we anticipate? Well, we can anticipate that the responsibility of the skill development will fall on the shoulders of our leaders, on all of you, on our business owners. But therein lies another challenge, because it's also been found that 80% of all companies currently are reporting a leadership development gap. And to make matters even worse than that, 60% of all current leaders have never had any type of formal mentorship training. So what we're looking at is a circumstance where we don't have enough people with the right skills, and we don't have anyone to teach them. To make the circumstance even worse, because of the unnecessary chaos, confusion, and conflict that's being created due to inaccessible levels of leadership, we now have about 57% of all people who are leaving their positions stating that it's the leadership as the reason why. So, regardless of your circumstance right now, more than ever, we've established our sense of urgency. If you would like to bring a new vision to life, let alone be successful in the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to be necessary that we start growing our staffs. And that's exactly what transformational leadership does. That's what it provides. Now, before I get into what transformational leadership is, I always like to take a quick minute to talk about what it isn't. Because there are a lot of leadership styles, and they're not all bad, but there are a few that are worth mentioning. When talking about leadership in the business sector especially, here are 3 that are especially common. First, we have laissez-faire. You guys know these people. They're super flexible. They have this, whatever you come up with is fine. It's great. It's awesome. Now, this leadership style does allow for the employees to make a lot of the decisions, which can be fantastic. However, in a circumstance where enough direction is not given, questions are left, right? People don't know what to do. Now, if you are a leader with a vision, if you're not communicating that vision, as is typical with the laissez-faire style, inevitably what you're going to have is people working in a lot of different directions. Not ideal. And because of that wasted effort, the realization of that vision for you is going to be a little bit more challenging. So, laissez-faire, it's okay, but certainly challenges arise with it. Next, we have my least favorite type of leadership. Aha, the autocratic leader. These are the bosses, right? They like to make the decisions. They like to make the decisions so much so that it often feels like you have to walk on eggshells to be around them. Really not great to be around. Micromanagers, they are very interested in having things their way, and when they don't go their way, ultimately they become reactionary or, in worst case scenarios, retaliatory. Not ideal for a vision because what they're doing is they're using fear to motivate their staffs. The funny thing about the human brain is anytime fear is used as a motivator, what you're actually doing is you're decreasing your staff's capacity to work at their highest potential. The stress response alone will take away from their best quality of work. So when you're thinking about a vision and the challenges that come with that, you really want to have the best work out of people. So this isn't the one for anyone. And finally, we have what's probably most common in the business sector, and that's transactional leadership. Not a bad style, very common, but they're known for having the idea of, like, name your price, right? Name your price. Because what they do is they use rewards to motivate people, primarily money. Now, in my experience, though not a bad style, it does pose certain challenges, especially if you have to run an organization on a short budget, or you have to ask your staffs one too many times to take one too many extra shifts or responsibility. Because inevitably what will happen is the money runs out. And when the money runs out, people leave. So all of these leadership styles, though there are certain advantages, there are challenges. And the challenges actually come out in regards to organizational structure very frequently. Best case scenario. A best case scenario for a business, you're fully staffed, right? You have everyone in place that you need in order to do the work that is necessary to bring this new thing to life. But like a lot of people are having the experience with right now and is happening globally, a lot of businesses actually look a little something more like this. Couple of gaps, right? Yeah, a couple of gaps. Now, though the other leadership styles can certainly allow you to fill those gaps eventually, what inevitably will always happen is there will be turnover, whether it be to lack of direction, whether it be to the fear that you're using to motivate them, or perhaps it's a lack of money, because that's run out. But because these people are turning over, what you're doing is wasting necessary resources internally within the organization. It's expensive to replace people. Worse than that, when positions are left open, what inevitably has to happen is you have to displace that work onto someone else. All of a sudden, the game is no longer about thinking what the future is and this vision that you have in your mind that you're all working to achieve. It's about dealing with the here and now. And that's really not ideal when we're talking about a vision. So, with leadership, I would argue that if you are interested in bringing your vision to life, ultimately what you need is something that allows you to build your staffs while motivating them in a way that doesn't necessarily mean money or fear. And that's where my favorite one comes in. So transformational leadership can be best summarized as supporting the individual to support the whole. Ultimately, it's about skill development. It's skill development, and by helping people become their best selves, you are able to get the best out of them, and therefore your organization, your community is able to do its best. So, transformational leadership. Now, it has 4 really unique properties or facets that these types of leaders bring to the table. Inspirational motivation, idealized influence, individualized consideration, intellectual stimulation. I call them the 4 I's, and they're a lot of theory. They're kind of heavy if you look at them. Now, you probably can look at them and piece together what they mean, but we're not going to do anything boring like that. We're going to do something much more fun. And this is my favorite part. So to explain to you each of the facets of transformational leadership, I first have to teach you a short course called Lobstering 101. With the help of this handsome fella, with over 50 years of lobstering experience, he's known up and down the coast as the toughest guy around. Most people call him Slugger. I'll let you guess why. I'm pretty lucky, though, because I just get to call him Dad. Yeah, dear old Dad. He's a pretty cool guy. Now, my dad started fishing when he was 7 years old. 7 years old, using a rowboat and wooden lobster traps. I started working for him when I was about 12. I worked with him over the summers, and then as a teacher, again, summers, but eventually while I was completing my doctorate, worked for him full-time for several years. Though I didn't realize it as a kid, Dad did a really exceptional job of demonstrating the different facets of transformational leadership in the way that he ran his boat. And I'll show you the parallels there in just a moment. But before I do that, we got to talk about lobstering, because it's a kind of cool lifestyle. I'm sure you guys have questions. So the first thing you should really know about lobstering is up and down the coast of Maine, there are about 5,200 active lobster licenses. You have to have a lobster license to fish. You also have to have a boat, just so you know. Of these lobster fishermen, each fishing license is specific to a fishing zone. The fishing zones are further broken down into fishing territories. The territories themselves are controlled by harbor, and each harbor is controlled by a group of families, usually 8 to 10 families per harbor. The reason I mention this is because it sometimes has a bit of a lawless component to it. Now, think like mafia style, but with boats. Yeah, you think I'm joking. I'm not joking. So much so, in fact, because it was actually documented in this really cool book called Lobster Gangs of New York. Yeah, it's as kooky as it sounds, I promise. The reason this behavior was demonstrated, though, and historically it's just part of our culture, is because there are very few economically similar opportunities for people in our area. In my county, where I'm from, the median family household makes about $64,000 a year. Not a lot of money, very low income in the area I'm from. The lobster fishermen, however, because of the natural resource that they're able to access, it's very easy for them. It's very easy for a teenage kid who's fishing for 3 or 4 months out of the summer to make $60,000. Yeah. So the typical lobster fisherman who's not especially good or especially dedicated to their job can make $120,000 a year. The average is going to be about $150,000 to $200,000, with some of the best fishermen making about $350,000 a year. Yeah, big money where I'm from, very big money. Now, compared to what is typical in the other households, it's really important for fishermen to protect the access that they have, and that's why this lawless component sometimes comes into play because there are very few other opportunities. Now, the fishermen as a whole, they're a really interesting subset because they, in comparison to a lot of people who make this amount of money, they aren't especially well educated formally. Most of Maine's fishermen have only a high school diploma, with actually a little bit more than 25% of them having never graduated high school before. My dad was one of the guys that didn't graduate high school because it just simply didn't make sense at the time. So with this all into consideration, a couple of other things come into play with the fishing industry. Collectively, they catch about 100 million pounds a year, which is a lot of stinking lobsters, much more than could fill this room, actually. And it contributes about $1 billion to the Maine economy. That's a lot of money for us. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, that sounds pretty good. All right, how can I get into that? Well, you need some equipment, right? Here we have a very basic setup, lobster traps. They used to be made out of wood. Now it's just wire. The wire's covered with this rubber coating, so they're a little bit more resilient on the bottom of the ocean. The traps themselves weigh about 35 to 75 pounds a piece, and they're about 3 to 4 feet long. They're kind of big. Everyone has their own strategy for setting these traps up, and everybody has their own lobster buoy color. That's ours, green and orange. So every day, it's your goal to go out and to haul between 200 and 400 traps. It's a lot. It's very, very hard work, both physically and emotionally. Now, hauling a trap means you're going to take it from the bottom of the ocean to the deck of the boat. You're going to switch out the bait. You're going to make sure you take the good lobsters, keep them, you throw the bad ones back, and that's what you do all day, every day. Now, the last point you really need to know in Lobstering 101 is that, culturally speaking, in addition to this little lawless thing we have going, it also has a tradition of conservation and competition. Now, conservation, we are one of only about 20% of all industries globally, fishing industries, that has not reached a level of overfishing. So about 80% of all global fisheries are in a not great position. This is due to the laws that we put into place very early on. We have things like trap limits and certain requirements around the lobsters that we're able to keep that has allowed us to maintain this industry. Equally so, however, we're a highly competitive subgroup. Everyone, almost everyone, all the time wants to know who's catching what, who can be the biggest, who can be the best. So it's really what drives us, most of us, a great deal. So here's Lobstering 101. Seems pretty cool, right? Give me a thumbs up if you're like, all right, I would kind of like to see that live and in color. Okay. So I've given you the necessary context. Let's circle back. 4 pieces to transformational leadership, right? Now I'm going to talk about Dad a little bit, and I'm going to show you how each one of these things can be taken and put into play in your community, in your organization, in your business. And let's start with inspirational motivation. So inspirational motivation, it's all about communication. More specifically, the communication of your vision to whomever you are collaborating or working with. Now, similar to navigation, the key to inspirational motivation is that vision of yours, you have to let people know where you want to go. So when communicating that, be sure to provide people with an opportunity to connect with your vision in a way that they can and want to connect with it. They can and want to connect with it. Let's talk about Dad's vision for a second, right? So like I said, he was part of the subgroup. It was anticipated that he, because of his subgroup, be really interested in competition. Well, that's not my dad. Slugger was not interested in that at all. And you can actually tell that by his boat. There it is, the Barbara Jean, as he would call it, after my mom. But the Barbara Jean is a 35 Duffy. In comparison to other boats in our harbor and other boats up and down the coast of Maine, it's a little bit smaller and it has much fewer horsepower to it. Now, Dad, he didn't really care about this whole competitive thing. That wasn't his vision. His vision was to catch more lobsters each year, more lobsters each year by fishing smarter. Simple. Catch more lobsters each year by fishing smarter. So, why was this his vision? And why did it matter? Well, let's talk about the challenge that he had at hand. He had to convince his 12-year-old daughter that it was a good idea to start getting up at 3:30 in the morning, to be on the boat by 4, to stand literally elbows deep in dead fish 8 to 10 hours a day in all weather conditions. That's a pretty big ask, right? Think about your teenage kids. Anybody have a teenage kid? They're like, oh yeah, definitely, my kid would do that. No, they wouldn't. No, they wouldn't. No, I know enough teenagers that, no, they wouldn't. So the thing was, with Dad's vision, if he would have just communicated it like, we're gonna go make money today, I wouldn't have been interested. Money is money. It wouldn't have mattered. At 12 and 13 years old especially, I would not have cared. But what Dad was able to do is he was able to communicate his mission to me, his vision to me, in a way that I understood. His goal was to catch more lobsters each year because of the increased financial pressures of raising a young family. It was a conversation I understood. So each year, by catching more lobsters, he was able to make sure that our family was more financially secure. Right? Pretty easy. Any kid can understand that. Now for me, I understood why we were there, and then he did one better than that. He made it a game for me, and that's something I could really buy into. It wasn't for us about just going and hauling traps and being fast and being the best. It didn't matter. We were trying to be smarter, so every moment of every day we collected information. We collected information about how many traps, how many lobsters were in the trap, how many crabs were in the trap, what was happening with the bait, the tide, the water temperature. All of this information was taken into consideration, and we collected it so we could make better informed decisions, so that we could put our traps in the best place to have the best yield possible. For me, lobstering was taught to me in a way that was similar to chess. It was a living, breathing entity that I performed in, and that made it really cool. So when thinking about your vision, regardless of what it is, you always need to make sure that you allow people the opportunity to connect with it. Once people are able to make that personal connection with it, they'll be more willing to be independently motivated. So things like fear and money become less of a requirement. Now, when you come up with your vision, whatever it might be, I encourage you to do 2 really important things with your staffs. First, you want to make sure that your vision is measurable. Yeah, it's measurable. Please write that down for you note takers. I love how people are taking notes. This is great. Yeah, make it measurable. Now, I know, and I get it. Right now, we have a culture where buzzwords are super cool, and I love that. Buzzwords are cool, yeah, but the hard thing about a buzzword is you don't know how to measure it. That means when you get there, you don't know if you're there to begin with. That whole navigation piece, it's important. So when you're communicating with your staffs, make sure they understand what exactly it is you're trying to achieve. For us, it was a certain number of lobsters we were trying to catch each and every single day. I knew what our goal was. I knew each week what our goal was. I knew each year what our goal was. Your staffs should know what they're trying to achieve. Numbers are super important. Now, just because we measured in lobsters doesn't mean you have to. Probably wouldn't make sense, I'm gonna guess. Thank you for laughing. So ways you can measure: contact hours, number of contracts, number of dollars raised. These are all really great opportunities to put a number, defining number on whatever it is you're trying to work for. The other thing that's really going to be important when you're communicating with your staffs, because remember, inspirational motivation, it's all about communication, is you need to make sure that you allow your staff members an opportunity to understand how they uniquely support what it is that you're trying to do. Let me give you context. On that boat, I understood that even by doing simple tasks like banding lobsters and baiting bait bags, it was taking off the physical load from Dad. Because his physical requirements were lesser, he was better able to perform more quickly, therefore haul more traps. I was allowing him to be more productive in what he was doing, even a simple skill. So make sure that your staffs understand how what they're doing is important Because if they're employed at your organization and they're working to meet a vision, they should probably be doing something to support that vision. Let them know what it is. So if you're hanging out with a kid to catch lobsters, here are a few ways that you can actually bring inspirational motivation to life in your organization. First, you want to make sure from the very beginning you establish really clear onboarding practices that align with that mission and vision. Again, we're going to make sure it's measurable. We're going to make sure each employee within your organization understands exactly what they're doing to support it. Now, say hypothetically you are in a situation where you're an established business or organization and you already have a staff and you're developing your vision. Well, that means you should still put them through as many trainings as you would a new employee in order to get everyone on the same page so that they can be working as a unified front so they may better realize that vision. You gotta have that communication happen. So training, training, training. Next, you want to make sure that you conduct really regular team meetings to share the vision and also the progress that you are making on it. Let me run a scenario by you. You have maybe a team, 10 plus people. And you tell them, we're going to do this thing, we're going to measure it this way, go do good. And they go do good-ish for about 6 months. And then after 6 months, you realize that 2 out of those 10 people, well, they actually really misunderstood what you said the first conversation. And now all that time and all that money is wasted, and you have to recorrect. We don't have enough resources, guys, to allow for those errors to occur. So you need to make sure that you're meeting frequently with your staffs. If you have a larger team, it's equally important to make sure that the way in which you would conduct that meeting with your team leads is being demonstrated or utilized throughout the organization. The better you are able to facilitate the flow of information from the very bottom to the very top, the better able you will be able to make those proactive decisions to adjust things so you may better meet that vision as a whole. Very important. And finally, you gotta make sure you celebrate people and the achievements that they make as that vision comes to life. Now, I really like to point out in this scenario, we have a culture where sometimes authenticity is something that people struggle with. Don't do that to people. They'll know. Make sure that you actively observe the performance of your employees and provide them with genuine feedback. There are a lot of times I had to stand in the pouring rain for multiple days in a row. And right around the 3rd day, my dad could always tell when I would start to get a little grumpy, as one would. Yeah, as one would. And about that 3rd day, he would always make sure that he gave me a little positive feedback. Did it take back the rain? No, the rain was still going to happen, sometimes for much longer. But because he was able to say, like, hey, kid, good job tying that knot, or, oh, you're banding lobsters really quick today. I was banding lobsters really quickly that day. It helped me feel that extra little step, that little excitement that I needed to get over that challenging moment. Ultimately, when you're bringing a vision to life, there's going to be challenges. And the more that you're able to build your staff up and get them on the right page, the more willing they're going to be able to face those challenging things with you. Opposed to, like in previous styles, we saw people leave. We can't have people leave. We need them to stay. Okay, quick thumbs up if we feel like inspirational motivation. We feel okay about that? Groovy. All right. Well, all right. Yeah, give me a woo-ha. I like that. All right. So next up, dear old dad again, idealized influence, our second facet of transformational leadership. He looks a little different than that first slide, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. I let him know every chance I get. So dad, for a really young age, I'll have to let you know, I looked up to my dad a great deal, which is convenient because idealized influence is really all about role modeling, being a positive role model to the people that are working with you or for you. Now, a thing that he has always said to me that I'll share with you now, and I'm not going to say it like I'll say it like he says it. If you're going to talk the talk, dear, you better walk the walk, that very thick Maine accent. And that's really the key with idealized influence. When you're doing this, you're demonstrating to your staffs how you want them to perform. How you want them to perform by taking on those behaviors yourself. Now remember Dad, his big vision was to catch more lobsters each year by fishing smarter. Pretty direct, right? Well, he demonstrated this in his behaviors each and every single day. I learned really early on that the smartest thing that you can do as a fisherman is make the best of the weather, make the best of the opportunities, because fishing, lobstering, actually only happens between about mid-July to mid-November. The reason this happens is because that's when the great shed happens. The lobsters lose their hard exterior shell, and it's replaced by a softer shell that's a little bit bigger and they grow into. Because it's a growing process, the lobsters themselves get really hungry and much more excited to go into those traps. So what that means is that you need to put the work in when the fishing season is active in order to catch that maybe 100,000 pounds that you're hoping to achieve. So what that meant for me, I've seen a lot of rainy days on the boat. I've seen a lot of windy days. I've seen a lot of foggy days, the 26 consecutive of them, actually, one year. Yeah, that was a long year. I've seen a lot of days where we were the only boat that left the harbor because of the weather conditions, and I've seen even more weeks where a lot of guys took 2, 3, and 4 days off, but we didn't take any. And the reason we didn't take any off is because we were fishing smarter. We were putting the time in when the time was available to us. Beyond that, the time that we actually put in on the boat, we also made sure that we made the best of the traps that we were fishing. The way that traps are put at sea, typically you fish them in groups, and we monitored how much we were catching out of those groups. We call them strings. As soon as a string of traps started to underperform, we would make the informed decision to move them to a better fishing territory. We were fishing smarter to reach our overall goal of catching more lobsters each year. So again, idealized influence is about talking the talk and walking the walk. For Dad, he wanted to show me how to be a smarter, hardworking, happy fisherman. And because those were the behaviors he demonstrated, that's what I inevitably became. Let's get to you, though. How are you going to make sure this happens in your staffs? Well, first, you're going to be really consistent with people. You're going to be super consistent with people. If you in your organization are saying that it's important to be timely, if that's part of your vision, be on time. If it's important for you to be an organization that's known for being attentive, don't be on social media during meetings or on your email. Little things. You have to make sure that what you're saying is matching what you're doing. And as a leader, the most important thing that I ever learned was that eyes are on you all of the time. All of the time. And the moment that you demonstrate a variance away from what you've said, people notice. And for them, it's a green flag. It's a go light. They're going to do it. Even if they've seen you act a different way a million times, that first time you demonstrate that poor behavior, they're going to think, oh, well, my turn now. And they will. And because they see this other type of behavior, it confuses them, and this is just going to prompt more unnecessary conflict within your organization. You want to avoid unnecessary, challenging conversations, make sure you're doing what you're saying, okay? Next up, you want to make sure that you display a lot of transparency in your communication and decision-making process. You have to remember, as a leader, there are often times where you're working with individuals with different backgrounds, with different education levels, with different experiences, and the things that you do sometimes may not make sense. They may not have the necessary context. So when people come to you with questions, or perhaps even with a little conflict in their voices, because that's oftentimes how it comes out, don't take it personally. Take it as an opportunity to explain and to teach to them what it is and why it is you're doing. But make sure it does connect to your overall vision. Make sure that your visionary actions are consistent. Because as you explain things and as people get to know you better as a leader, when those things happen, they'll come to you much more level-headed. they'll be like, hey, can you walk me through why we did this? And all of a sudden, a thing that may have been challenging in the past is easily resolved. So that's a very important one. I'd write that one down if I were you. And the last one, and I have to say, I learned this the hard way one too many times as a leader, is to show vulnerability by admitting mistakes. I know that culturally, where there is such an emphasis on perfection, right? We're all told that things need to be perfect all the time, but that's not the reality of the matter. It doesn't matter how experienced or how good of a leader you are, you will make mistakes. The worst thing that you can do, though, is pretend it didn't happen or lie to your staffs about it. Because each time you lie to your staffs about the errors that you have made, it gives them an opportunity to become fearful. You've broken a relationship with them in that lie. So avoid it by owning it. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard. But by saying, yep, I should have definitely done it this way instead, they'll take that and they'll say, okay, this person's showing vulnerability with me. That means I can trust them to show vulnerability too. And it will only improve the quality of your relationship and therefore improve the ability that you have to lead them as individuals. So, idealized influence. Give me a thumbs up. And I like the wahoos before. Oh, yeah! Okay, cool. Well, that was cool. All right, so we're halfway through it. How do we feel about transformational leadership? Give me a nod of the head if you're like, okay, this is starting to make sense. This is starting to make sense. Okay. So next up, we have my favorite part of transformational leadership, and this is individualized consideration. Remember at the beginning of my presentation, I told you that it is key right now, it is urgent, in fact, for us to adopt leadership practices that allow us to grow our staffs. Well, this is what individualized consideration does. It helps you grow your staff because it works off this idea. And if there is one thing that you can remember about me and remember about my presentation today as you move forward as a leader, it needs to be this. You can't be what you don't know. Take it for a second. Think about it. You can't be what you don't know. You can't. And that goes for anything. You can't do a task at a job, a new job. You can't take on a new role. You can't show kindness. You can't show honesty. You can't show vulnerability. You cannot be anything unless it's been modeled, unless you know what it is. So you can't be what you don't know. Now, this is all about skill development, this component. And I felt like it would only be fair, because I came all this way from Maine and everything, to instead of telling you a story, could I show you guys how to do this? Yeah? Okay. So I got to call up, I got a couple of buddies, Max. I came into town and I said to everyone on staff, I was like, okay, I need someone who's going to be at least as tough as a 12-year-old girl. What do you got for me? So they gave me this guy. Max, come on up, buddy. Yeah, give Max some love. And then I have some special friends. I have some special friends that I brought all the way from the East Coast. Yeah, Max. Yeah, Max. Oh, yeah, you can put that on the podium. Thank you. All right, so
good luck.
Good. All right, Max. So thank you so much, buddy. I'm going to give you those.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you today. So I actually brought a few friends today, everyone, all the way from the coast of Maine. Yes. So like I said before, I was 12 years old when I learned how to handle these. These are hard-shell spring lobsters. This is a female, which means think of the angriest woman that you've ever known. Multiply it by 10. That's her right now. She is angry. Okay. So at 12 years old, I was taught how to do this job. And I'm going to show you the difference right now between not showing individualized consideration and showing it. You ready? Okay. All right, remember, guys, you can't be what you don't know. Get it ready for market.
Get it ready for market?
Yeah, get it ready for market. Let me know when you're done. Watch out, those claws are kind of...
They're going to bite me?
They might hurt you. Okay, it's silly, right? That's super silly, right? I just handed this guy a lobster and said, get it ready for market.
I got an idea.
Don't, please, God, no. Idaho, putting it on grills. We have to have a separate conversation later about how you cook it. Ugh. Anyways, okay, so I think we can all see. If I were to just ask him, if he came onto my boat right now and I said, okay, do it. It's silly. You wouldn't do that to people. I wouldn't do that on my boat. So why should you do it in your workplaces? Don't. Every skill, every task, everything, you stay still. Yeah, he thinks so until she makes him cry. That's gonna be fun. So regardless of what tasks you're asking of people, you have to always go into the circumstance with the assumption that they might not know. Take the opportunity from the get-go and develop a culture of growth and teach people the way you want things done. The difference between a leader and a great leader. A great leader develops skills in people because it's the kindest thing they can do. So, let me show you how to develop skills, shall we? So, it was silly. I think, hold that, crazy. So, when it comes to, I'm missing a slide there. Oh, no. Bring it back, there we go. Okay, so write this down. If you're a note taker, I need you to take a picture of this. This is everything you need to know about teaching and learning, right here. Skill development comes down to 3 very basic steps. You model behavior, you let them practice it, and you give it some feedback. It's simple, it's easy. Anyone can teach, trust me. So I'm gonna teach Max right now how he would do this job if he were to show up on my boat. Now, to prepare a lobster for market, there are a couple of steps. The first thing you need to do is check its gender. So we're gonna check its gender, okay? So in order to do that, you flip the lobster upside down.
How come you have the one with the...
Because you're doing all the steps. Stop being a whiny butt. Come on, tough guy. Okay, so we're gonna hold it like this, and I'm gonna show all of you really quickly. He wants to get hurt, I swear. So see on the bottom, you can also see it up there. The lobster itself has these little things called swimmerettes. Little swimmerettes on both tails. Now, the swimmerettes on a female lobster are really skinny and wispy. On a male, they're thick. They're thicker. They're a little bit more sturdy. These are the private parts of the lobster. Okay? So looking at this one, at the top swimmerettes,
Yep.
which one looks a little bit smaller? This one. So this is a female. Awesome. Hold that just like that. Okay, so I've modeled it. He practiced it, and now I'm going to give him some feedback. Good job, buddy. Good job, you did it. Yes, give him some feedback. All right. So he has a female lobster. Now, when you have a female lobster at sea, the next thing you need to do is you need to check its tail. So like I said before, we have a lot of regulations around keeping lobsters. The way that we have preserved our industry is making sure that females who have been caught previously with eggs on their belly, they've demonstrated that they can reproduce. So what we do is we cut a little V into the second flipper of that lobster, and we throw her back. We let her free. Because she has produced before, that means she'll produce again. And what we do in cutting that, we're communicating to other fishermen that she's done that, and we want her to go back to sea. So, Max, we're gonna look at the second flipper, buddy. We're gonna flip her over, just like this.
Okay.
Do you see any V's in there?
No V's.
No V's, okay, hold it just like that. You're doing awesome. Okay, so again, I modeled it. Thank you for helping with the feedback. He practiced with feedback. Okay, so we're halfway through the steps. Now we gotta measure her. Yeah, we gotta measure, all right. So for you, my friend, I have a measure. I'll show you here. So in order to keep a lobster, it has to be 3 1/4 inches long from its eye socket, which you can see up there, to the very bottom of its back. Again, this is about conservation. We're gonna make sure that we get healthy, mature lobsters to sell at market. So Max, I'm gonna go right into the eye socket and see how it lands on the back there. That's a good one. You wanna try?
Good one. Back.
Looks good to you?
Let's eat it.
Let's eat it. Okay, so modeled practice feedback. Whoa, yeah. You feel feeling pretty good, aren't you?
I'm
Professional. Now, once we've established that it is a gender that we can keep, that it doesn't have any markers on it that say we can't keep it, and that it's the right size, next we have to band it. Yeah, we have to band it. So I'm going to teach you how to band. So every single lobster needs to be banded, and the reason that we need to do this is because I said before, she's mean. She's really mean. She can, quite honestly, she can break fingers. She could break my pinky right now without a great deal of effort.
In my fridge, and you did not tell me that.
They're all banded though, yeah. So this bander is the most valuable tool outside of the measure that you can have on a lobster boat. Max, all you're gonna do is see how it's on the head there. You're gonna spread, you're gonna put it over and turn.
Okay.
Think you can do it?
Probably.
Probably, all right, let me get my other band. And you would have gotten through this without any injury. Thank goodness I forgot that waiver. All right, there you are, sir. You want to hold? You want to hold it yourself?
Sorry.
Tougher than a 12-year-old girl.
Well.
Turn! You've got it. You're so close. You're so close. You done it. You did it. Release it.
Release. Not so much pressure.
Not so much. Release your hand. Let me guide you.
There we go.
Oh yeah! Yes, Max! Whew, had me nervous there first. Okay, again though, super simple. There are 4 steps to do this really simple job that I learned when I was 12. 4 steps, but we walked him through the same process every time. We modeled it, he practiced it. We've provided him feedback, right? And that's how you teach a skill in your organization. Everyone give one more round of applause for Max. Max, thank you. And Max, because he's such a good friend of mine now, here's a copy of my book to help with skill development, my friend.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Appreciate you. Yeah, right there's great. Okay. Yes, one more round. I love it. Fantastic. Okay, so as you see, it could be something as simple as getting a lobster ready for market, but it's still a skill. Every job you have, every job anyone has, specific skills are necessary. Don't you dare ever make the assumption that people can just do it. And that's not a bad thing. What you're doing in helping that skill development is ultimately you're evolving that individual so that they can take on more skills within your organization as a whole. The more corrective you are in your skill teaching, the better your businesses will function every single time. Now let's talk really quickly about skill development though, because there is a really important piece here. This is the most important thing I can teach you about learning, actually. In order for people to learn, they first have to be able to feel vulnerable with you. Right? Think about it. In order to learn, you have to first admit what you don't know. You have to first be able to admit what you don't know. And to do that, it's a vulnerability. If you do not have positive relationships with your employees, within your organization, they will not be able to learn from you because they won't be able to trust themselves to be that vulnerable with you. So it begins by building that relationship. Building that relationship can take on a lot of different faces. The first thing you can do right now, as soon as you get back, is really start prioritizing that culture of growth and creating those positive relationships. That means you don't make it a bad thing when people make errors. Don't make it a bad thing. It's just part of it. Don't worry, let me show you. Encourage people to ask questions. All of that is a necessary piece of teaching and learning. Next, you want to make sure that you're consistently facilitating one-on-one mentorship meetings. One-on-one mentorship meetings. Now, although some of us are capable of admitting when we don't know something in front of people. Max, you did a great job. A lot of people, they can't do that. It's too scary, it's too hard. There's too many other things that they're bringing to the table. So allow people the privacy of learning. And the way that you can best support that sometimes is those one-on-one meetings. I encourage every leader within every organization to meet with their staff members one-on-one a minimum of one time a month. One time a month. If you're working with an individual who's trying to develop specific skills, tangible, hard skills, you should be meeting with them every other week. If you have a new employee, their supervisor should be meeting with them 1 time a week. It's not to be micromanaging. It's not to boss them around. It's to make sure that you're building that positive relationship so when they don't know something, they can come to you and they can say, haha, can you help me out? And you can go, yeah, absolutely, let's do this. And it's a culture of growth and learning. Culture of growth and learning. The last thing that you can do to really make sure that you're showing people individualized consideration within your organization is always make sure that mistakes are met with compassion and are remedied with learning. People don't make mistakes on purpose. They make mistakes because they don't know. So give them the benefit of the doubt. All right, give me a thumbs up if we feel like individualized consideration. Groovy. Woo! And our last one, here we go. So now you have the skills to communicate your message. You're going to show people how to live that vision. You're going to make sure that when they come on board, as they need skill development, you teach them the skills necessary to develop. And our last piece here is going to be all about continuing that process with intellectual stimulation. Here's a picture of us leaving the harbor. And the best thing that Dad taught me, probably, was that every time the sun comes up, it's a chance to learn. At 12, I learned how to ban lobsters and bait bags. But after a little bit of time, a couple seasons, Dad realized that I could do more. So he taught me more. I learned how to navigate. I learned the different types of sea bottom. I learned how to build traps and change hydraulic lines. I learned how to communicate with other fishermen. I learned safety procedures. I learned pretty much it all. I've been doing it for over 15 years, and he still manages to teach me something every day. Because I'm able to actively engage my brain, I'm excited to go on the boat every single time I'm able to. The same will be true about your staffs. You keep them engaged intellectually, they're going to want to stay. But the moment they start to get bored, they're going to start looking for new positions. That's just a fact. So here are ways that you can help this within your organization. We're going to make sure that you have clear professional pathways from the very bottom to the very top. Do yourselves a favor, though, and don't you ever make number of years of experience or college degrees the only way that people can move from one position to another. Yes, that's a woohoo moment indeed. Fact of the matter is, a lot of people don't need the extra experience. They don't need 15 years. They might have the skills already. They also may not need the degrees, and more importantly, they may not be able to access those degrees. Why rely on it then? Why not rely on something that's more tangible, like specific skills that you identify that are specific to each role in your organization? By letting people know exactly what it is they need to be able to do in order to perform at that level, you're going to be a little bit easier to find people to fill those positions for yourselves. So make sure you have those pathways. Next up, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate resources and learning opportunities for individuals. If you want a specific skill set, you better have the stuff on board to say, okay, you want to learn this skill, you want to move into the next position? Well, here's what you need to do. Here are the things. Whether it be in micro-learning models, whether it be in trainings, whether it be whatever it is. You just need to make sure the opportunities are available. As soon as you don't provide those opportunities, again, it's going to cause a level of mistrust, and you don't want that. If there's an investment that you can make in the next 5 years for your organization because of the challenges with skill development, I would recommend probably this one at being a top couple in your list. Finally, you want to make sure you encourage and incorporate positive feedback as much as possible, but you also want to give them an opportunity to give that feedback to you. That's just as important. As people develop, it's important to allow them the opportunity to exercise the skills that you've helped them develop. So take the feedback. They might be able to look at a problem differently than you are, and it might get better. So use it. So, how do we feel about intellectual stimulation? Give me a thumbs up. Good, okay. So let's talk about our little organizational chart here. In the beginning, we realized that a lot of organizations look a little bit like this right now. They're missing people, vital people in some scenarios. The cool thing about organizational leadership, though, is as you start to kind of use those 4 facets, and you yourself start to demonstrate those traits, the people around you will too. They will, because you're demonstrating that behavior. Now, as they're developing those skills and in themselves are becoming their own version of a transformational leader, what you can expect is all of a sudden you're going to be able to do this really cool thing. It's called grow. As an organization, though, this time, not as individuals. And as you're able to bring people up from different positions to fill in higher level positions, all of a sudden it's much easier to grow as an organization because you're focusing on those lower level ones that you have to fill, which is okay because you have in your mind to come to life. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool process. So, let's circle back around because I am just a few minutes over. At the very beginning, I told you that I was going to do this. I was going to make sure you understood the urgency. We were going to do the whole 4 facets of transformational leadership, and I was going to make sure that you had a few practical skills. Give me a wahoo if you feel like we did it. Did we do this? Woohoo! Yeah, I did it. Okay, well, because I held up my end of the bargain, it's time for me to ask a favor of you. That's a main thing. You can ask anyone out there. So here's my big call to action. Oh, clicker. We're going to need more batteries in this guy. It's coming. Or is it? So my big call to action, everyone, is just for you. It's not going to come up. I'll say it then. Ah, there it is. I gotta have you invest. I have to have you prioritize and invest in transformational leadership training at all levels within your organization. The kindness that you demonstrate in helping others develop this specific skill set will profoundly improve your organizations, your businesses, and your communities. And collectively, through those acts of kindness, we can change the world. We certainly can. So, to celebrate this big moment, I actually have a few other favors, if that's okay with all of you. First, we gotta get the selfie. If you feel like you learned something today, I need you to say really quickly, wahoo, or even better, you can't be what you don't know. Are you ready? You can't be what you don't know. 1, 2, 3, go! You can't be what you don't know. Thank you, everyone. The second thing I'm gonna need you to do, so I've modeled some behaviors, right? Now I'd like to call on you to practice them, right? I've modeled what it means to be a kind, transformational leader. So here's a little practice opportunity. Earlier yesterday, I had a wonderful opportunity to meet the Dream Factory, I'm going to call executive director, Katie. In case you're unfamiliar with the Dream Factory, it's a national organization. We have a branch here in Boise, though. They specialize in bringing dreams to life for kids who have exceptional illnesses, chronic exceptional illnesses. So Katie here is in the very beginning phases of her organization's development, and I would like to call to action an opportunity for all of you. If you would like to come and be a kind actor or a kind leader, I'm going to ask that you take a moment and you stand up, and in standing up, you're saying that you're willing to donate at least $1 to Katie and her organization today. Who's willing to give at least $1 to Katie? Anyone want to be a kind leader? Okay. So I got a bunch of people who want to be kind leaders, and that means they get kind swag, so go ahead and fill that out, team. So her board's actually pretty cool, the way she's raising a little bit of money. She has envelopes ranging between $1 and $100. My team right now is going to do their absolute best to make sure that you get some swag from me for being a kind leader. Oh, wow. I'm very surprised by it. Well then, thank you for everyone standing up. If you didn't get a cup or some swag, you take a seat because I saw everyone who's in there who said they'd be willing to give. I need you to look at the person next to you, take a mental note of that. You're going to walk to her booth during the next break to make sure that she gets that donation that all of you who just stood up said you were going to give. Thank you, everyone, for being so kind. I genuinely appreciate it. Thankfully, I anticipated. I didn't know how I could anticipate it, but I thought probably there would be more kind people in here than not. So as you walk out that door, there is some kind swag at the door for you that's specific to this event. Lobstering and leadership, that's the talk. Today, I showed you how to use transformational leadership to bring your vision to life, and I hope you enjoy the sticker that I'm going to give you that will help you remember the lessons that we learned today. Quickly, make sure you look on the back side of that sticker that you're going to get. Hypothetically, if you have something on that sticker, come see me. I've got a better present for you, okay? So there we are. Everyone, the key to leadership is growing people. And through kindness, that's how you grow people. Thank you so incredibly much for having me here today. I genuinely appreciate it. I hope to talk to you all a little bit later. Thank you.